And Williams-Isom is New York City's Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. Fabien Levy is the Deputy Mayor for Communications. And they are both marathon runners, and they completed it and have medals, but we'll talk about that later. What I'd like to talk to you about is immigration. Nothing has ignited fear more in the immigrant community than the threat of possible deportation. I'd like you both to talk to me about what's real, what's not real, and what they can expect from New York City.
I'm really glad that that's where we're starting, Marcia, because I do think my heart breaks when I think about families and children who are anxious and fearful now about what's going to happen. I want to tell people that this is a thriving city because of the immigrants that are here, and we are a sanctuary city, and the mayor has said very clearly that we want to protect people and care for them as we have been for many, many years, including the over 200,000 migrants who have come over the past year and a half. We want people to, they have a right to services, medical services, coming to school, making sure that they're getting protected. And so we don't want people to go underground and not seek the services that they need, and to know that New York City will continue to be a place that protects them.
Fabien, but what protections is New York City going to offer them?
So let me first say that New York City, just like this country, is a city of immigrants. It's always going to be that. And the mayor has been very clear. He's not supporting any kind of mass deportation. But we should also be clear about what happened last week. There was an election, and the people spoke very clearly, and they said that they wanted change to our immigration system, and especially at the border. And so it's been 40 years, and we've done really nothing on immigration reform at the federal level. And so what we need to do is put the labels aside and actually come together and come up with a solution. But to protect them, like you're saying, specifically, look, we have a Office of Immigrant Affairs that reports actually to Deputy Mayor Ann. And their job every single day is to work with immigrants, undocumented, asylum seekers, different groups of people, and make sure they know all the rights that they have, all the protections. And specifically here in New York City, we are a sanctuary city. We have sanctuary city laws. That's not going to change no matter who's in the White House or who controls Congress. And so, we're going to make sure we follow the law. Of course, we're always going to do that. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't look at the results of the election last week and think about how we can still better our immigration system.
I guess the question people are asking is, will the mayor of the city of New York have a better opportunity with a new White House in terms of getting some concerns about what happens in the border? Because there seemed to be a lack of sympathy on the part of the Biden White House for the problems that New York City was going through.
Well, the way that I'll say that is that when we have seen the census going down, and that is a direct result of what the Harris-Biden White House has done in terms of the action that they've taken at the border. So I think that we have seen that the White House has been responsive to the needs that we have. I think the fact that immigration reform has been kind of in disarray for the past 40 years is no secret to anyone. And I do think that we should be focusing on that. My job as the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services is to care for people. That is what we've been doing for the past 2.5 years. That is what we're going to continue to do. And that's what the mayor has asked us to do.
So you have different kinds of immigrants in New York City. You have the asylum seekers who've come in, and we know that there's been over 200,000 of them. But there are also immigrants who have been living here for quite some time, who do not have who may have green cards or may not have green cards. There's fear among that community as well. And I wonder if there's anything that you could say to them about what they can expect, because they're worried about ICE agents coming and knocking down their door, what's going to happen, because they may have worked here for 10 years, but they don't have a green card.
I think it's an issue, and we say that there are populations where maybe a dad has a particular status and a mom has a different status. I think again, we're a sanctuary city, and so that means that we are going to protect people, and people have rights. I've been very proud for the recent migrants that have come in. We've done over 81,000 applications for people to make sure that they're applying for their temporary protective status, that they're applying for work authorization, because that's what people want. So we're going to do the best that we can to make sure that people are applying for their status, and so that they're here in the way that they should be, and that we're not letting people get bullied or fear-mongering in the way that we see is happening.
And Marcia, if I go back to what I started with, look, this is a city of immigrants and a nation of immigrants. My parents, they came here, they're immigrants. They came here at a shot at the American dream. Lots of people in our administration, their families are immigrants and came here for the exact same reason. And so we're always going to be true to those values and be a beacon of freedom for all.
So under the former mayor, Mayor de Blasio, there was sort of like a non-cooperation agreement of sorts, that they were not going to cooperate with federal immigration agents, ICE agents. I wonder if you expect that to change and there will be some cooperation in terms of what actions they can do in New York City with the cooperation of the city.
I think the mayor says we're going to abide by the law, and that's what we're going to do. And I don't think we would be prepared to say that we are cooperating, not cooperating. We're going to make sure that we are abiding by the law. I think there are probably people who are not abiding by the law in the way that they should be, and the mayor has always said that that's separate. The rules right now are if there is someone that we know that has been involved in criminal activity, the police can pursue that person. But what we're talking about is people who are here, they're good, abiding people, they're not doing anything, not breaking any laws. Those are the people that we're going to make sure that we're protecting.
You know, one of the things that I think was an issue during the campaign was the fact that the president-elect talked about the people who were here who were committing crimes. He talked about Venezuelan street gangs. He talked about other people. I wonder if those people who, I mean, there have been stories in our local papers about people who have done bad things. The question is, will they receive the same protections, or will they have to face the music, and should they be deported?
I think, go ahead, you go.
So look, the law right now doesn't differentiate between the two groups. That being said, the mayor has been clear that he thinks that we should be making, you know, the city council working in partnership should be making changes so those that are violent repeat offenders are treated a little bit differently. Because if you came here, if you're a mom who's working and, you know, trying to support your family, no, we don't want you to ever even fear of being deported. But the people that are the individuals, which is a very small group of people, let me be very clear about, that are breaking the law, just like any New Yorker, longtime New Yorker would break the law, they should be held accountable. And, you know, it's like the mayor says, it's a privilege to live in this city. It is. It's the greatest city in the world. And so we just want to make sure that people are being law-abiding.
I think that makes sense. I think everybody understands if you break the law, you're not right. You're not supposed to break the law, and you have to be held accountable.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the contribution that the immigrant community has been making to New York City, and, you know, in terms of the jobs that they fill and the amount of money they contribute to the city's economy with taxes and purchasing goods and services? Because I think that that's sort of gotten lost in the shuffle, that they make such amazing contributions to the city.
I think, especially here, and New Yorkers understand that, I think about even not just in the food industry, I think about in the medical industry and nurses and doctors, and there's so many people who have come from other places here in New York City who are law-abiding, contribute to the economy. Don't think that we would have the vibrant economy that we have right now without them. They are in school with our children. We worship with them in our, you know, in our synagogues, in our churches, in our mosque. And so I think New York, I think we understand what's happening. I do think that the migrant crisis of the past 2.5 years has weighed heavy on us. And I think that weighing heavy on us is much different than saying mass deportation for immigrants.
And to that point, DM, it's that, you know, there's 220,000 plus asylum seekers that have come to our city in the last 2.5 years. A lot of them have still not been given the ability to work, the work authorization by the federal government. And to the point that you just made, you know, they want to contribute to our society and give back. And not only, you know, have a job, but also contribute to our tax base.
That's right.
If every one of them that's eligible, you know, adults obviously we're talking about, are able to work, that's increasing our tax base. That's more money going towards our parks and to our schools and to our public health system and all the different things that that support the city of New York.
So
the only thing I want to say is over 200 have come into our system, but probably much more of that have come into New York City. So everybody who has come here has not come into the Department of Homeless Services system. So
basically what you're saying is you want the federal government to speed up the work permit process.
Absolutely.
Because you want to have more of them working.
We've been saying that from the very beginning. Yes. I think if you look back,
maybe they'll hear you.
I think the migrants that have come in also are saying that.
That's exactly right.
Because I've been to the border with the mayor, and I've been to the shelters here in New York, and the first question he always asks is, who here wants to work? And the hands shoot up every single time.
And I'm going to raise my hand and say we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but our conversation continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We're back with a bonus conversation with Deputy Mayors Ann Williams-Isom and Fabien Levy. So I guess I'd like to start by asking you what plans that the administration has put in place to deal with the incoming Republican administration in Washington.
Sure. So our administration has been scenario planning for months, depending on if Trump won or Harris won, because we needed to be ready for both situations. And so we have, been looking at a range of policy, budgetary, and civic issues that might be affected here in the city. We've created 7 working groups, each focused on different areas, so social services, public health, immigration, infrastructure, public safety, civic engagement, all of those specifically to be ready for all the different policies that the federal administration, working alongside Congress, could be putting in place. So we've been working on that for a long time. And, obviously, as the president-elect fills out his cabinet and announces more policies, we're going to be adapting and being ready for whatever happens on January 20th. And to be clear also, a lot of people, the president-elect and a lot of people in his orbit might be saying things, but doing things is very different than actually saying it. So we have to be ready for different actions based off of than what is even being said.
If memory serves me, there's about $8 billion, I think, that the city receives in federal aid for the budget. Is there a concern that that might be decreased? And if so, what programs could be effective? I know, Ann, you're worried about that.
Yeah, I'm worried about that. I was going to say funding is my big thing that I'm worried about. When you think about, there's a lot of fiscal cliffs that we have related in our healthcare portfolio, in my social services portfolio related to whether it's SNAP, that's food benefits, whether it's cash assistance. And so when it comes to healthcare and health, our health portfolio, I'm really worried about the benefits that our New Yorkers, I guess 3 million New Yorkers receive benefits right now, so I'm concerned about how that might be affected.
Are we worried about changes to the Affordable Care Act?
I'm worried about changes to the Affordable Care Act and being prepared for that and what that would mean. I'm worried about health care to immigrants. I'm worried, like all of those things. And as Fabien said, all of our commissioners have been planning for a while, and we have some experience from the last administration and trying to put some scenarios in place.
So 7.9 billion roughly translates to about 7% of our total budget. About 3.5 billion of that just goes to New York City public schools. So that's a huge piece of it right there. A lot of our housing preservation and development is funded through federal grants as well. So we're talking about school, education, obviously health.
Yeah,
so there's a number of areas, and so that's why we're even public safety. There's a lot of public safety pieces that are funded by federal grants. Yeah. So we're looking at all of it.
Well, I would also have to ask you about congestion pricing, because the Republicans in Washington, Congressman Lawler and others, have a bill that would deny federal aid to the MTA if congestion pricing goes ahead. And if that happens, they may come to the city to make a bigger contribution to the MTA. What effect would that have?
So, look, the mayor has been very clear. He supports the governor's efforts on this, but specifically, she went back and looked at it and said, "How can I support working-class New Yorkers?" And so the adjustment that they made brings it down 40%. It's a lot more affordable, but obviously, this will go back and forth between the federal government and the state before we have any kind of back and forth here in the city.
So are we at all worried about the effects of what could happen in Washington and the effect it could have on our budget? Or do we think that funding will continue at some similar level through at least the beginning of the administration?
I think there's uncertainty, and I think we're trying to prepare for all types of what can happen. So I do think we're worried, but we want to make sure that we're prepared to see where we get to.
And just one thing that we've been looking at through this whole scenario planning is that learn from lessons of the past. President Trump was already president while, this city fought back on every single policy and wanted to not work with him on anything. The mayor, while he's always going to defend New York City values, has made it very clear, and this administration has made it very clear, we have to work with the incoming administration because they're the presidential administration. They're going to be the ones in charge. So maybe take a different tack. Maybe we can work with folks on the issues that we can see eye to eye, which is maybe we can, still support funding for a lot of our school children, for public safety issues, for public health issues and stuff like that. And if there's something that we have to disagree on, we can disagree respectfully, but, and still fight for New York values.
So you think there's going to be a different tone in New York City relating to this president than it happened under a previous administration when he was first the president?
What I hear you saying is that we're going to be grounded in our values. We're going to listen to what New Yorkers want, and we're going to make sure that we're protecting New Yorkers.
So let's talk about the marathon. How did this come about that the deputy mayor decided to run?
So I was, with the mayor last year at the marathon, and Deputy Mayor Joshi, who's an ultra marathon runner, she's like, "Oh, you should run it." And I was like, I don't know about that. And I somehow convinced Deputy Mayor Ann, I think.
Wanted to run it because last time I ran it, I turned 50, and so I'm turning 60 today, and so I wanted to run it for my 60th birthday. So it kind of came together.
And then we convinced other deputy mayors to get in. So first Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer also did it. Deputy Mayor Joshi was going to do it, and then she got injured literally just a few weeks before.
So
but that's actually
the question:
good for us.
What was the preparation like for you guys?
So it was about 4 months or so that we did active training 3 to 4 days a week.
So this is my 5th marathon. So the training...
You've done 5 marathons?
I know. Everybody's acting like this is my first marathon. This is not my first. This is not my first rodeo.
This is my first one.
So the training is the same, but what I thought was so great was the discipline. I feel like the discipline that we bring to our work, the discipline that you bring into your family, to yourself, to self-care, is the same discipline for training for a
So what was
marathon.
the training like? I mean, did you run 2 days a week, 5 days a week?
I did 4 days a week with long runs on Saturday.
I did 3 to 4, depending on the week, a short, a medium, and then a long run on Saturday or Sunday. And I would always text the mayor and a few others, like, going on my long run, don't have my work phone.
Right.
So I have my personal phone. You have to call me here if there's an emergency. Thank God, no emergencies during
So
runs.
did you change your diet in order to prepare for this?
I should have, probably. But
no,
when you're running so much, honestly, it helped.
Did you ever run 26 miles before you did the marathon?
So I never ran more than 2 miles in my life before starting to train for this. During it, you're supposed to get up to, I think, 20. And then the adrenaline's supposed to push you. I wanted to do 22 to get a little bit closer. I ran too far than that 22, and I did about 24 and a half. So I got pretty close. But you're not supposed to go up to 26.
Fabien thought he was running the Olympics. I keep on telling the people. There are New Yorkers and extraordinary people of all different abilities, all different ages that train and do the marathon. And I say it's ordinary. We're ordinary people doing an extraordinary thing. But I think that just shows us the untapped potential all of us have.
And one thing that I really loved about it was how much fun everyone that's partaking in it, whether you're running or you're cheering from the side, it's like the happiest day in New York City.
It's a good day.
And we could have each just focused on running like straight and not like stopping and not enjoying it, but like we took videos throughout. We like pet dogs. I high-fived every dog. I did. There were so many dogs around. I high-fived every hand I could. I like took pictures and video with my friends. Like it was fun, and I recommend it for anybody.
So what was the toughest moment?
During the marathon?
Yeah, during the race.
For me, it was...
What was the toughest place?
Mile 22 when I saw my family. So my 3 children and my son-in-law and daughter-in-law and my husband. And I just was really tired at that point, and they were really excited, and I just started to cry, and they were like, no, you've got this. You've only got, 4 more miles to go. But that was tough. I wanted to just stay there with them and not continue.
How about you? What was the toughest place?
About 19-20 miles. It was like my legs were just giving out. But I'll tell you, tougher than that was during the trainings. Those goos that you have to eat, they are horrible.
It's just like a gel.
Gel to keep you fueled. They made me nauseous, and like they make so many people, like they're horrible. So I cut those out before the marathon, and I just had a bunch of bananas and other things during the marathon.
And so are we going to reveal the time that each of you...
Yes, of course. I did it in 5 hours and 45 minutes, which was 6 minutes less than when I was 50 years old.
Good for you. And
I did 4:55.
What?
Yeah, and then, but First Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer, she smoked us
4
hours and 5 minutes.
I would not say she smoked us. Everybody, your race, your pace.
Yeah, of course.
It's not a competition.
But she smoked us.
No, see, this is what his thing. I'm not saying that.
You're both champions in my book because you finished the race.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
You are both great, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you at home for joining us as well.